Welcome to the ChairLife podcast with Tom Cuthbert. As a CEO coach and master chair, Tom brings you the insights, strategies, and tools to help you build your chair life, where mission and purpose intersect with a balanced work life. This is the path to leading with impact while living with intention. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Tom Cuthbert.
As we enter Father's Day weekend, I can't help but reflect on the most influential person in my life, my dad. Maybe that's the case for you. But for me, my dad was someone who had pithy sayings and always was an encourager for me, always challenged me, and was always solving problems. And there was one thing that he said that I learned and apply, and you've probably heard me say it: mediocrity is not my style. Day in and day out. And throughout my dad's entire 91-year life, that was his theme. And rarely a day went by when he would find a way to share that with someone, especially me. Dad was born in 1928 in Nashville, Tennessee. Even at a very young age, had an affinity for electricity. He and his younger brother, Jerry, would tinker with things and build things at a time when there was a lot of experimenting going on with that. There's even a story about Dad running electrical wires underneath the sheets of my brother's bed. And my grandmother, to wake the boys up upstairs in their room, would push a doorbell-like button that my dad ran the current through those wires. My uncle remembers telling me the story of being about 4 feet off the ground looking down at the sheets and thinking, I don't know what that was, but I don't want to be back on it. They had a great time, and Dad lived a full life. At age 14, he was on the cover of Life magazine as one of the youngest pilots to ever get their license. He was an electrical engineer with degrees from MIT, Georgia Tech, and his PhD from SMU. A Navy pilot with over 6,000 hours on blimps and Hellcats on and off aircraft carriers. And then he went on to work at Collins Radio and NASA and the Apollo program. He wrote 3 books on broadband impedance matching, and if you're looking for a good bedtime read, that would do it. Dad's theory was that mediocrity is not my style, and everything he did, he leaned in to make sure that that was the case. I couldn't help but live a life with him as my dad, influencing me that way. And his life was really built around excellence, whether it was making sure the Apollo astronauts could communicate back to Earth or just sitting around his house on the top of a hill overlooking Lake Greenwood solving problems. His legacy has inspired me to fight mediocrity, not only in my life, but certainly in my Vistage journey. So today I thought it would be kind of fun to share some ideas and thoughts around what does mediocrity creeping into our groups look like, and a special new word that we've created to help you think about keeping it out. Colin Powell says, excellence is not an exception. It is a prevailing attitude. It's not that mediocrity is just not our style. It's that it's not even a single failure. It's a mindset, and we can reject it every day by choosing excellence. And that's what Dad did, and that's what I want to encourage you to do. So in our Vistage groups, I think we can all look at our groups and see the ups and downs and ebbs and flows of the strength of a group over the years. There are times when it's strong and it seems like the members click and work well together. There's other times when it's perhaps a little more challenging. And I'm just like you. We've had ups and downs in my groups. We had one of my CEO groups lose several members earlier this year, and it was a big transition. Almost all of those that left had either had a transaction or something going on in life that caused them to leave, or they had been in long enough and felt like they had gotten all the value out of it. And that just tells me that we need to up our game every day. We need to get better and really push for excellence. So when you see several things inside the group, I think that's an indicator that mediocrity might be creeping in. The first thing is just low engagement. It's members not speaking up. It's disinterest in their one-to-ones or trying to skip their one-to-ones. It's not doing their accountability teams or meeting with other members. This is the first telltale sign that something is creeping into the group that's lowering the high-performing behaviors. Attendance is certainly a measure of this. And when attendance begins to drop in a group, the group misses that person, they miss their contribution, and that person obviously misses the speaker. They miss issue processing and spending time with their colleagues. Goals are also an indicator of this. We've just come out of our mid-year meetings and checking in on where we are halfway through the year on goals, and There are some members that are not as interested in pushing as hard as they have been in the past on goals. And we'll talk about those in our one-to-ones, but that stalled progress is also an indicator of mediocrity. Accepting good enough over great and pushing is the clear indicator of mediocrity. And at the corner of all of it, trust. When our conversations in the group, our discussions in our one-to-one don't go deep, when people are not vulnerable, when we're at surface level conversations, that tells me that mediocrity is creeping into the group. Now, about a year and a half ago in February 2024, one of my groups called me out. They said, hey, I don't think our group is really leaning in and being as strong as we could. And so over the next year, we made some changes. I had individual conversations with members. We talked about how to get back on track, and we made a few changes that made a big difference. And you may be seeing signs in your group of mediocrity creeping in. Well, let me give you a new word that you can use. It's called the Mediocrity Shield. We made it up. It's a mediocrity defense system that you can put into your groups, talk to your members about, that will help shield your group. It's a protective armor against mediocrity. Now, these are just some ideas, but I thought it was kind of a fun word, so I thought I'd share it with you. A mediocrity shield, a mediocrity shield in your personal life means that we need to set goals and we need to be a role model for our members. We need to be as transparent and authentic, or more so, than we're expecting from them. That means checking in on our goals. When we put goals on the back of our placemats that we do consistently, my goals are on there as well. And it's important for us to model that self-regulation of those goals and that authenticity that we're looking for them. I also think we need to check in with ourselves. In February of last year, when I was called out, the first thing I did was think about my role in this. As the chair, it's our responsibility to make sure that the groups are high performing. And yet we can't do it without members holding themselves accountable. So regular self-assessment is a high-performing behavior and one that we talk about quite often. Vistage is a feedback-rich environment. And so giving feedback and getting feedback and making decisions from that. I talked a few weeks ago about our ambassador program. And in our world, at the end of June, our ambassadors, one member from each group, gets together with me and our team, and we talk about what's working, what can we do better, and where can we improve. That level of feedback, that continuous loop of improvement, is critical for us. Another area that shields mediocrity is learning. Not only learning from the speakers that come in, but learning from each other, learning from books, sharing these ideas, keeping ourselves sharp. So in your group, there are 4 things I was going to recommend that you do on a regular basis to really lean in and use your mediocrity shield to guard your group against mediocrity. Number 1 are high-performing behaviors. Now, I've shared quite a bit about this. There's earlier podcasts in this year where I've discussed them. You can visit my website at tomcuthbert.com/high-performing behaviors. But those behaviors need to be visible and talked about and commented on consistently. Every meeting, every one-to-one, we should find ways to weave those high-performing behaviors in so that the members know what's expected from them. Accountability is second. I know, and I say all the time, trying to hold someone else accountable is like trying to eat their lunch for them. So we can't do that. But what we should do is model an environment of accountability inside our Vistage groups. Our groups should be what our members aspire to create inside their companies. Check-ins, progress report, tracking commitments, pushing each other for specifics on getting things done. Number 3 is encourage innovation. When you see mediocrity creeping in, talk to the group. What clever, creative, or new ideas can we come up with to fight it off? It doesn't have to be something as dramatic as rolling out 12 high-performing behaviors. It could be something as simple as getting a core group together in the group and talking to each member individually about making some changes. And number 4 is celebrating those success. The meetings that we have that are home runs, the meetings where people walk out and say, wow, this meeting has changed my year, maybe even changed my life because of what I learned from another member, the issue that we processed, the speaker that we had, or the conversation that we've had in our one-to-one. Celebrate those successes. Memorialize those stories. Share them with others so they know what good looks like, what great looks like. So I hope those ideas help as part of your mediocrity shield. Some of the tools that we have available for us, and I'll talk about a big one here in the tips and tricks section on Binder, but we have the issue processing form that members can prepare. We have the online check-in sheet where they can be candid and authentic, and we use that to save time in meetings. We have speaker prep. I have calls with every speaker, and I did a podcast about how to get the most out of those speakers, and letting members know who's coming and how they can prepare for that is super important. Getting their feedback in surveys, their accountability teams, super important. And then structured discussions, either using a one-to-one primer, using other structured forms that you might have in one-to-ones or other conversations in the group. There's a lot of tools that Vistage offers us to help get members back on track. And it's time for me to be authentic with you. Last month, we had Michael Brody Weap come speak to our group about addictive leadership. He's a fantastic speaker, and the members loved him. And he really challenged us to think about, how do we practice rigorous authenticity? And as I thought about, what am I doing that I should be challenging and pushing myself towards, I realized I'm allowing mediocrity to creep into my groups. We have 7 groups, and in each one, after hearing this conversation, I realized I need to be the one to lead and guide this as the chair. They're not going to do it without me. I love Michael's action card that he has, and it just simply follows this simple outline. What do I say yes to? I've been saying yes to allowing non-high-performing behaviors inside our group. I say yes to CEO members, and I'm in some ways afraid or fearful or uncertain about challenging them on these behaviors. How much does it cost me? Well, I calculated it. I think it cost me 160 hours over the course of an entire year. And then he says, surrender to the outcome. The reason I say yes is because I'm scared of pressuring them. I'm worried about members leaving. I'm worried about members pushing back. I know that they're busy, and so I make excuses for them, when the reality is that's weakening our groups. So I need to say no to a non-performing, high-performing behavior. To a non-high-performing behavior, rather, I need to push back on the members. I'm committed to do that and have these conversations, and I've been having these conversations. When I think about the impact to our community for not confronting these members, just like we put dollar values on issue processing, it's a $5 million issue across the 150 members that we have in our groups. I want them to get value. I want them to be committed, and I want to be a chair that does not accept mediocrity. So put on your mediocre shield, dust it off, put it in front of you, around your group, find those places where mediocrity might be lurking, either in your group or in your life, and take action on them. And when you put that shield on and you attack mediocrity, my dad would be proud of you. So happy Father's Day, and all the best to all the dads out there, and all the best to you in the significant work that we're doing in helping leaders grow beyond what they imagine possible.
Now it's time for Tom's tips and tricks to optimize your productivity and your chair life.
It helps me run my groups more effectively and enhances my one-to-ones. And it's pretty simple. It is a binder. I know, underwhelming, right? But I have to say, the idea of having some key information for each CEO member in one place that I can keep in my office or with me when I'm having one-to-ones or in group meetings has been a game changer for us this year. Now, I recognize the information that's in there, and I'll share with you what these elements are, is highly confidential. And so I do make sure it's locked up. And I encourage you, if you go down this road, to do the same thing. So this idea came from just me constantly digging through Dropbox or Google Drive or My Vistage to try to find forms and information that members submit to me. And I'll go through each of the elements that are in the binder, and in the show notes, we'll give you a link to a page that has a list of them on it, as well as a picture of what our binders look like. So I have 37 CEO members and 3 coaching clients, and I use the binder for all 40 of the folks that I coach. There are 6 essential documents that we build into the binder. And so let me step through what each of those are. The first one is the Biz Equity Report that's been available to members through Vistage. This has been a fantastic tool for us, and I did a podcast recently on enterprise value. I think this tool is fantastic. It really gives a lot of great information and insights as to where the company is. It allows us as chairs to begin to look at their enterprise value on a year-to-year basis. At the end of the day, the reason they're in Vistage is to grow the enterprise value of their company. And so when we have a baseline report like the Biz Equity Report, it allows us both to get a year-over-year comparison, but also to get deep and detailed information as to metrics, indices, and other key indicators that tell us where we need to be looking inside a member's company to help them optimize their business. The second one are culture index surveys for their senior leaders. Now, you may use predictive index or other tools like that. So whatever you're using is fine, but I think some sort of assessment tool. I happen to love culture index and worked with them now for over 10 years. Whatever it is, having those charts for their senior leaders is super helpful when it's in the tab for that member to jump in. If we're talking about one of their senior leaders and we're having an issue with them, or they're having an issue with someone else, we can pull up their culture index and work our way through it. I'm a subscriber. I have been for many years. I use it into other businesses that we have. And so I've been through training several times, but I just think it is invaluable. About a third or half maybe of our member companies are using an instrument like culture index or predictive index. And I encourage them to do that. Well, I don't have a dog in the hunt. It sure makes one-to-ones better and group meetings better when we can have a CI on a member or a member's leader that we're talking about. Number 3 on the list is the Founders Advisors Exit Readiness Assessment. Now, the Founders Advisors Group are Vistage partners. They're listed on the transaction page on My Vistage. They've been speaking to our group and contributing to our community for some years. And unlike the Biz Equity Report, their survey that they have, the assessment that they allow our CEO members to take is more subjective than objective, but it has great information in it. And I found that in combination with Biz Equity to be a very powerful combination for us to really look at what's happening inside their company to prepare for an exit, a sale, a merger, or a succession, or just simply writing out the economic headwinds that are coming at some point in the future. It's a great guide with a cool little chart at the front that's a quick snapshot. And so having that available for us to drill in is an important element. Number 4 on the list are member goals. Now, I've been tracking member goals for over 10 years, and each member of every group submits goals on my website at tomcuthbert.com/goals, and we have a lot of information on there about the process that we use for that. Many of them also submit a reflection document, and I enjoy reading through those to help them prepare for the year. But having their goals, and as I mentioned earlier, checking in with those goals throughout the year is a really critical component for us. It allows me to keep them focused in moving their business and their life forward. They have personal goals and business goals. And so it's really important that we spend time with that. Number 5 on the list is a strategic compass. Now, you may have heard Larry O'Toole's presentation. It is fantastic on strategic planning. I really appreciate it. I had Larry back this past January to speak to my groups for the 3rd time over the last several years. And Larry's presentation is based on the Oshin Kanri, the Japanese strategic compass that you may have heard of. So it's a single page document that allows a member to take all of the aspects of their strategic plan and put it all in one place. And I really love it. I've modified it. We're going to give you a link to it, as I mentioned in the show notes and on another page. And so it's something for you to look at. And if you've not had Larry O'Toole, I highly recommend him as a speaker. Last, number 6 is the Vistage Leadership Assessment. I've asked our members to go through this and identify the 5 most important leaders inside their company. And this tool allows us to look at this matrix and see where they are from a performance and a potential standpoint and help move them up and to the right. This is not only increases retention, but it increases their performance and their value to the company. So focusing on those 5 leaders has been something that we've been doing the last few years. And I really like the Vistage Leadership Assessment tool. So those are the 6 elements that are in there. And again, I keep it in my office where most all of my one-to-ones occur. I will often take it to group meetings. We use it to surface issues. We use it to identify things that are going on inside their company or areas that they need to focus on. It's just been an invaluable resource. It's a big, thick binder, and each member has their own tab, and I found it to be an invaluable resource. So we'll put all this information in the show notes. If you go to my website /binders, there'll be a page up there that has pictures of the binders on the outside. You just get a sense of what this information looks like and links to each of the elements in it. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope that you jump in, give the binders a shot, Start small, work your way up, and see if that helps improve your members' performance. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the ChairLife podcast. Remember, you can find more resources at tomcuthbert.com. Please let others know about our podcast by sending them to chairlifepodcast.com. See you next time on the ChairLife podcast.